Aparna, turn on your camera. Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, so we'll move on to the session. Very good evening. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. The Jaya Group of Institutions welcome you all to the webinar on enterprise transformation, becoming a product-driven organization. Today we are pleased to welcome our speaker, Ms. Aparna Kumar, a digital transformation expert and enterprise architect from Milestone Technologies Inc. We extend a warm welcome to you, Aparna.
Thank you very much.
Today's webinar focuses on the enterprise transformation. For many companies, change is a way of life. In fact, companies need to change in order to survive. Enterprise transformation deals with the fundamental organizational change that impacts how a core business is conducted. This need for a transformation change can be caused by internal or external factors. But the result is a shift in how the organization relates to its wider economic environment. Enterprise transformation can be defined as a fundamental change to the way an organization operates, whether that be moving into a new market or operating in a new way. It's an approach that attempts to align an organization activities relating to people, process, and technology more closely with its business strategy and vision. This fundamental change aims to meet long-term objectives. So we are going to hear a lot about enterprise transformation from Aparna. Aparna is going to share a lot about her experiences as enterprise architect in this session. So before getting into the sessions, there's a regular note. I request every participant to submit the feedback form at the end. Okay. So through which the certificate is generated. Then I request every participant to type your name in the capital letter and provide a valid email ID. The other things so quite common. The technology used here is the purely rely on the strength of the local bandwidth. If you have any audio issues, just you can check your devices. Otherwise, you can click reconnect button to resume join with the webinar. And so the recorded version of this webinar is available in YouTube after 4 hours. Okay, if anybody want to go through the recording of this webinar, you can check it out through YouTube. So with this note, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Ms. Aparna Kumar. Aparna is an enterprise architect with 11 plus years of IT experience in digital transformation. Experience in payments benefit administration and automotive industry. Have a rich experience spanning quality assurance, business analysis, business process, data visualization, and application monitoring. She has graduated from Anna University in the computer science and engineering discipline. She started her career at project associate at IIT Madras. Then she moved to New Jersey City. She worked for First Credit Services as a QA analyst, then Sagitech Solutions as software testing lead, then Church Pension Group, New York as quality assurance analyst, Ford Motor Company, Michigan as senior business analyst. Currently, she is with Milestone Technologies Inc. at California as enterprise architect. She is a certified Scrum Master and a certified Scrum Product Owner. With this brief introduction, we will move on to the session. I am very glad to welcome Ms. Aparna Kumar to present. Over to you, Aparna.
Thank you very much, sir, for the kind words and introduction. And good evening to one and all who have joined this session. And I would like to take this opportunity to give you a brief about what I am going to speak through this next 30 to 45 minutes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it on the chat. And I'm happy to answer questions outside this session as well. We can connect. So over the years, the IT industry in general has gone through a sea change. So there was a time when a customer would give a requirement, and 1 year later on, a product or an application or a software would be delivered with a lot of issues. And slowly and steadily and rather painfully, I think the entire application development lifecycle in the IT industry has evolved over the years. And to support application development, we have QA, we have, currently, if you see, we have a very fancy world of DevOps, full stack development. But if you really pause all these different ways of developing an application and delivering software to a customer, what really has happened in the way we do things, let's say 10 years back and today, is we have transformed. It is the same set of people, it is the same deliverable at the end of the day, but the way we do it has changed. And that in organizations, be it big or small, is given this broad term of transformation. And whenever an organization is doing the transformation at enterprise level, one of the most successful methodologies or ways they have achieved it is by becoming a product driven organization. And I would really like to speak about what that means from a real world scenario. And I also want to touch upon opportunities in future for people who want to become, let's say, product analysts or product managers. And I believe we have a mixed audience. So I would like to touch upon few flavors so everybody is equally engaged. So if we start off and talk about what really does an IT company do, or rather, what were they doing in the past? We had, let's say, a 500,000 member IT company, and some people were, developing software, some people were testing softwares, and some people were constantly learning how to use these softwares and contributing towards experience. And to assist in doing all these activities, we had different kinds of technologies helping us, be it developmental software, testing software, environments to develop, deploy, operating systems, and whatnot. So this was pretty much how we were structured and what we were doing on a day-to-day basis. And there were a lot of challenges that people faced. And one of the foremost being the lack of customer connect. So although we had your business requirements in place, we had a requirement review happening, and we had a continuous Q&A going on, somewhere in the evolution of the software development, there was a gap. And always the customer, realized that, hey, I asked for this, but I have got something else. And that is the point of time in which there was a lot of retrospection happening, and people realized that agility or going agile can be a huge enabler to make sure you are delivering quality services. And once people started adopting the principles of agile, and becoming an agile model, having a scrum team, breaking down tasks and smaller segments, effective delivery, all of that was adopted by companies at various points of time. But this had to be done across years to see some kind of a result. And the change which we are talking about had to happen in these four quadrants. We needed the way a company is structured to primarily undergo a change. We wanted all the work that people do in the name of a task to be more productive, more valuable, and meaningful. And people in itself had to change their mindset. If you really look at what is a business process transformation, or what is an agile adaptation in IT companies, it is just a mindset. It is the same set of people, but you need to think differently. And in order to aid all this, there was a lot of friendlier technology which was coming in. And while most applications used a programming language, a backend database, a front end system, there was the introduction of web-based, and from web-based we became mobile-based, app-based, and to help this, we started breaking down applications into small units or services, and that really was a point of time when microservices architecture took place. So if I want to give you an example of how this change happens today, we all encounter this, right? We try to book a ticket online. We either go to, let's say, a train ticket, we go to IRCTC, the site is down, and we wait for a long time. And again, we have issues while completing payments, we have issues in booking history, whatnot. But if you take a typical e commerce website, which also has the equal number of traffic, you can probably count one or two instances where Amazon or a Flipkart or a Walmart website was down for hours together. The turnaround time which these companies take to fix a technical glitch is just negligent, nanoseconds. That's simply because their whole IT architecture is designed in such a way that they can move it around any day. So, for example, today, if we all use Facebook, we all use Instagram, and if they want to really change something in their technology, or they want to change a certain database structure, you don't even realize the change. You have a seamless interaction with the app on your phone, because that is how swift they can dismantle and reassemble their architecture. They have brought in that level of independence to the technology, and at the same time they have built these highly cross functional teams which can accommodate that kind of a change. So one very important factor to be able to adapt to all these ongoing changes is you should be a very resilient system, and you should have a vision of what you want to do. And when you speak of an IT company, or when you speak of software in general, you should always look to see what is this software trying to do. And when you speak of change, there are three factors that is important for a change to be successful. Your change should always scale, your change should innovate, and your change should automate. Now, these three are very specific to the IT industry in general. So, if you look at it, if you are from India, South India in particular, you want to have masala dosa, we go to Saravana Bhavan, which is, I know there are probably better competitors today, but ultimately your objective is to have a good masala dosa, and there is a certain experience you get in a Saravana Bhavan kind of hotel. And now this company or brand is a global player now. Let's say you go to New York and you order the same dosa, you will still get a uniform presentation, you will get the uniform accompaniments, and the point here is there is a certain model they have. So the system is driven by the change which is in the model they have created. So you want to have a Subway sandwich, you know that it is a standard process. You choose your bread, you choose your toppings, you choose your sauce, it's all arranged together, and there you go, you have your sub. So that way, as an end customer, I get the same product regardless of where I am. So my services and my requests should all be in alignment to what I really want. And when you look at how we have innovated, we have had websites from the early 90s up till now. But today we probably use websites for very specific purposes. Every website has its own app version. So we have come a really long way in that scope of innovation, and everything is at our fingertips. And the time it takes to book a flight ticket was probably 15 minutes a decade back, and now it can probably be done in under a minute or so. And this is where the interaction with technology for a human happens. So there is a lot of analytics that happens at the background. The usage patterns are studied, intelligent solutions are offered. And today, if you have been using an app, you booked a ticket once, the next time you go to book a ticket, you just choose your destination. All of your metadata is automated and put there for you to use. So this is how we have actually evolved over the years. And during this entire journey of evolution, there is one key player which every organization has had for their particular success. And that person or role is what we call as a product manager. And this transformation for an IT company or any organization is defined as a product driven organization. Instead of working on a service, people break down services into smaller clusters. Every cluster becomes a product of its own. And there is a product manager who pretty much drives this entire show. So if we look at this framework which we now speak of three areas. We have people, we have process, and we have technology. Now, whatever you try to do will fit in to this. And when all these talk to each other in a very cohesive manner, you win. And when I say win, you save time, you improve your quality of deliverable, you do things faster and better, and you also have a window of opportunity to do new things which will save you an overhead of time, which will cut back on the number of people who are doing routine tasks. You can make it intelligent tasks. You can train systems today to do something which manually required an intervention before. And a classic example here would be, there was a time when you had to board a flight, you'd go to the airport and you'd give your printout of a ticket. I'm talking of little recent times still. Somebody would print your boarding pass, and then we moved to kiosks where you can print your boarding pass, and now we have reached a stage where you can do your web check-in and your QR code is there on your mobile, and you just scan that if you want to print a boarding pass. If not, you're good to go. So we have completely eliminated the need for redundant paperwork and processes, and this, if you see, has easily reduced your time. If earlier you had to be in the airport an hour and a half to complete all this, today you can just go in time to go for your security screening. So this is why it is important for all these three elements to talk to each other. And for it to talk to each other, you need a driving force. And when I say driving force, it's mostly a person within a team who will take these decisions of how to do it right. And if we look at this, how an organization with a product owner or a product manager is structured, this is what it looks like. So to begin with, we have application development teams, we have technical folks who are taking care of maintenance and support, we have a testing team, and for a lot of products which need customers and they are B2C products, business to customer products, the typical way in which these people approach solutions is they study markets, they come with a need, and that need is what is ideally your requirements, and from there they design solutions. But in the world of product driven organization, they identify a solution, they do it on their own, and they don't wait until they develop something, go to the market, get a feedback, and come and improvise. Rather, they are fully equipped to study market patterns and develop solutions which can be readily deployed. So if you look at the whole concept of using agile technologies, where in IT world in particular, the parlance is a user story, a task, an estimate. So if we have to develop a software, and in a software you want to add one feature, what they do is they break that feature into smaller features, and to develop, what is the effort, to test, what is the effort, so on and so forth. So in order to do this very effectively, over the years, companies have broken down large silos. So to give you an example, testing in particular used to be a service of its own, but today if you see, you don't have alien testing team that's sitting somewhere far away and testing. The testing team or the resources who are testing a product with you are very much part of your own team. They are in your day-to-day activities. and where organizations adopt a test-driven development methodology. The development begins with testing. So these are some of the very highly effective practices that have helped organizations transform. And when I say transform, it includes a lot of things. When you want to have a new application brought into the organization to replace an existing one, or you want to automate some solutions, or you want to do a POC wherein you feel that this area needs a lot of micromanaging and you need to develop an efficient IT solution to carry out business activities. The most successful way of achieving it has been by breaking down that particular requirement into smaller products and then cohesively stitching them up. So if we look at uh, this, there's a video I would like to play, but I'll just give you an introduction on what it is before we start looking at a video. So we spoke about how services and software is broken down into like a product structure, and how self-organizing teams adopt agile principles and they work in a manner of delivering feature on feature. We all use mobile phones for various reasons, and listening to music is something that we all do. I'm sure we spend at least half an hour or an hour every day. And one of the companies which pioneered this concept of product driven development and transforming the way the web app was designed and deployed to end customers was by coming up with this very unique style of working, which they called as a product squad structure. And this was a cultural transformation that they brought in their company. So they didn't have a project manager and a delivery manager, a testing manager, 2-3 developers, 2-3 testers, and end of day send a status report saying we are done. They kind of broke those barriers, and they came up with this very unique concept where they said the entire product will be broken down into n number of units, and each unit would have its own developers and a product owner or a feature owner. And they restricted the number of people who would be part of this to no more than 8. And these 8 members are cross-functional. And the beauty of having these cross-functional people are they can test today, they can also write code and develop software, and when needed, they can pretend to be end users of the very feature they're developing and give you a feedback on user experience. So they're highly versatile, and they are people who are very productive. So let us just watch this video on how Spotify did this.
Do you remember the Xerox 9200 photocopier? What about Nokia 2110 or MySpace? They were all great products, success stories of their times. But now they are all history, replaced by new products and technologies. The life cycle of a product begins with an idea. But new ideas are immediately met with competition from others to gain attention, and only the promising ones survive to the product development stage. Even then, lots of things can go wrong. Some products are impossible to understand with all their options, or they take too long to develop. If they make it through development, it is time to take them to the market. But wait, did anyone bother to do any marketing or research market needs? Just because a product is successfully launched and has gained exposure doesn't mean it's in the clear. If the product is not continuously improved and managed, competitors will quickly knock it out of the market. So everything from ideas to commercial innovations requires good product management.
Product management is in charge of constantly evaluating new market opportunity, timing and planning specific features for maximum value, seeing to it that successful product marketing is used to clearly communicate its value to the target buyers, and nurturing the product's unique life cycle so that all investments receive their return. Plus, great product managers provide winning strategy, guiding every step towards success. Companies with an edge are those who follow this simple floor plan. If you want the blueprint to constant success, Prodman can help you. Winning product management, knowledge and tools. Prodman, building success stories.
So we saw really on how an organization broke down a software to behave like a product, and there were smaller teams. So we saw somebody was speaking about customer feedback. There were another set of people who were designing something. There were another set of people who were trying to understand what went wrong, perhaps. So this has probably been the most successful attempt that an organization had in terms of achieving maximum results. And I think from my experience, I can safely say that when you adopt this, you have a very fast paced environment, an aggressive solution delivery model, and there is no confusion towards what one must do. In a typical software development strategy, you have continuous changes, but they don't align with the process. So someone says this can be done in X way, and someone says it can be done in Y. There is no validation, and we often get overwhelmed with changing requirements. But this model, where there are fewer teams which are centrally focused, their ability to absorb these changing requirements is a lot better, because when a change comes, you identify which is that one team which will work on it and give it to them, and it will be taken to completion instead of going in loops about who will remain the owner of that kind of a change. And if you look at the product driven business, most big e-commerce giants or successful businesses who use mobile apps or web application as their point of selling their services, they have greatly benefited from this kind of a strategy. If you really look at a Facebook or an Amazon, they are all businesses and social media applications which at some point began as a website. And the time that Facebook really started, there were few other competitors too. There was something from Google, and no one really survived the market except for Facebook. That's simply because these guys knew how to adapt to the changing needs, and they studied patterns of what people were looking for, and they brought about quick transformation. So today, you never could imagine, maybe what, 10 years behind or 15 years behind, if someone were to ask you that will you be interested in an app which will let you share your thoughts and share pictures and talk to people, strangers, interact in group communities. That was something which was not known to us at all. And you can see how seamlessly the whole world adapted to the solutions they had to offer. This is because Facebook was designed in a manner to study people, study patterns, and independently add features. So if you look at the iPhone today, so it's one of the greatest inventions of the century, safely said. So the whole team at Apple, if you see, there's one bunch which works with the hardware. Their job is to assemble, work on the microchip and camera and things like that. And there is a software team which works on your iOS, and that's typically iTouch. So they take care of all of that. Now, these two are such large and diversified teams that you cannot have a situation where these teams actually talk to each other. It's impossible. But you can see how the solutions coming from both sides, when merged together, give you this beautiful iPhone. And that comes from the fact that their internal structure of bringing about work to the table is diversified. They are broken down into small teams. And in most cases, these teams don't even have a interaction with each other, but their common goals are clearly defined. And in a product driven organization, while customer is the king and it's important to satisfy them, your focus has to be very narrowed down to what is that one feature or solution that you are an owner of, how do you want to accomplish it, and what does it take for you to do it within the set timeline. And you need to have internal process, and you should not really look at how to make this lucrative in the market or how to sell this solution. You have to reduce your focus from being customer driven to being feature driven. And the only thing that you can do at this point of time is you don't assume that you're going to have a great customer, or you don't develop a feature thinking I will sell it to so many people. That is a different team that works. So if you take an e-commerce site like Flipkart, and let's say you work with the shopping catalog division as a product manager or a product owner, your job would be to own that catalog, make sure it always reflects the right items, and how you can enhance the user experience. There is a separate team out there which will work towards how to increase the sales on the website, traffic on the website, and this is the kind of demarcation which has been designed as part of these PDO transformations in IT companies. Earlier, it was all one big team. So the person who wrote the code would sometimes also be testing it, and we were highly compromised in our ability to develop anything meaningful. And given these trends and how people have really absorbed this role and the kind of success it has brought about, be it in the field of innovations in technology or bringing about a great user experience by means of having a very successful product manager, or by simply simplifying business, making work a lot more easy to IT companies, it is the product manager who has actually been driving this whole initiative. And you can see in front of you that there is a statistics over the last 2 years or almost 3 years. The number of people looking for a product manager, it has catapulted. It has literally gone up by 32%. And this is the data from the United States. But even here in India, there are a lot of demands for product managers in both IT companies as well as small IT product firms. And what does it take for somebody to become a product manager? You need to be very passionate about working in a highly fast-paced, high-intensity environment. You need to have good technical skills, and you have to be extremely versatile. So when I say versatile, you might not have to sit and write code, but should that need arise, you should at least be able to relate to it. And you should come with enormous UX and user experience in particular is accepting it. So when you are a product manager, it is your job to accept. So it's almost assuming the role of your customer. So when the team develops something and tests and says, here we are good, you should be in a position to say that this works for me, and either accept it or say that this is not something that is I'm kicked about. And one of the most difficult, um, rather, one of the biggest challenges today that a product manager faces is in helping organizations adapt to this new way. So if you look at it, we started with a classic waterfall kind of an approach in software development. And then we had things like rapid application development and joint application development. But none of these were really that fruitful. So most people continued with software in the waterfall evolution model. But over the years, the agile revolution has helped people break down tasks. They have achieved very highly efficient teams. And what took 6 or 8 months to do, they were able to do it slowly and steadily in about 2 or 3 months. That's the power really of agility. And outside of this entire your scrum and your frameworks, there is this product owner or the end customer who has really played a huge role in driving these initiatives. And while a lot of companies, it's debatable, many people have a product owner and they also have a product manager. But between the two, I think the product manager is a lot more powerful because you work very closely with the development team, you work closely with your testing, your UX folks, and you really know the pulse of what you are developing. Feature on feature, what kind of value add are you bringing? and how efficiently you're delivering the same thing which you would have done as a traditional project manager for 8 months. You are expected to do this in about 2 or 3 sprints in less than a month or 2 months. So that really is what sets apart this product manager in the whole umbrella of the various roles in the IT industry. And these roles are very cross functional. So for the people who are here on this call, if you are a business analyst, you are a senior developer, you are a test lead in IT industry, you can certainly aspire to become a product manager. And it takes for you to learn what it needs to in order to perform on that job. And there are a few fancy certifications which can help you get that edge as well. But it's very important to work in an agile framework to understand this concept of what the product manager brings to the table and how powerful it is. So I am okay to take any questions now, or if you would like to ask questions on email, that's also fine. Sir,
Yeah.
there's one video
So,
left. If we can play that, the
yeah.
yeah. So I would like to just play one more video for everyone to see.
One of the big success factors here at Spotify is our agile engineering culture. Culture tends to be invisible. We don't notice it because it's there all the time, kind of like the air we breathe. But if everyone understands the culture, we're more likely to be able to keep it and even strengthen it as we grow. So that's the purpose of this video. When our first music player was launched in 2008, we were pretty much a Scrum company. Scrum is a well-established agile development approach, and it gave us a nice team-based culture. However, a few years later, we had grown into a bunch of teams and found that some of the standard Scrum practices were actually getting in the way. So we decided to make all this optional. Rules are a good start, but then break them when needed. We decided that Agile matters more than Scrum, and Agile principles matter more than any specific practices. So we renamed the Scrum Master role to Agile Coach, because we wanted servant leaders more than process masters. We also started using the term squad instead of Scrum team, and our key driving force became autonomy. So what is an autonomous squad? A squad is a small, cross-functional, self-organizing team, usually less than 8 people. They sit together and they have end-to-end responsibility for the stuff they build. Design, commit, deploy, maintenance, operations, the whole thing. Each squad has a long-term mission, such as make Spotify the best place to discover music, or internal stuff like infrastructure for A/B testing. Autonomy basically means that the squad decides what to build, how to build it, and how to work together while doing it. There are, of course, some boundaries to this, such as the squad mission, the overall product strategy for whatever area they are working on, and short-term goals that are renegotiated every quarter. Our office is optimized for collaboration. Here's a typical squad area. The squad members work closely together here with adjustable desks and easy access to each other's screens. They gather over here in the lounge for things like planning sessions and retrospectives. And back there is a huddle room for smaller meetings or just to get some quiet time. Almost all walls are whiteboards. So why is autonomy so important? Well, because it's motivating, and motivated people build better stuff. Also, autonomy makes us fast by letting decisions happen locally in the squad instead of via a bunch of managers and committees and stuff. It helps us minimize handoffs and waiting so we can scale without getting bogged down with dependencies and coordination. Although each squad has its own mission, they need to be aligned with product strategy, company priorities, and other squads. Basically, be a good citizen in the Spotify ecosystem. Spotify's overall mission is more important than any individual squad. So the key principle is really be autonomous, but don't sub-optimize. It's kind of like a jazz band. Although each musician is autonomous and plays his own instrument, they listen to each other and focus on the whole song together. That's how great music is created. So our goal is loosely coupled, but tightly aligned squads. We're not all there yet, but we experiment a lot with different ways of getting closer. In fact, that applies to most things in this video. This culture description is really a mix of what we are today and what we are trying to become in the future. Alignment and autonomy may seem like different ends of a scale, as in more autonomy equals less alignment. However, we think of it more like two different dimensions. Down here is low alignment and low autonomy, a micromanagement culture. No high-level purpose, just shut up and follow orders. Up here is high alignment, but still low autonomy. So leaders are good at communicating what problem needs to be solved, but they're also telling people how to solve it. High alignment and high autonomy means leaders focus on what problem to solve, but let the teams figure out how to solve it. What about down here then? Low alignment and high autonomy means teams do whatever they want and basically all run in different directions. Leaders are helpless and our product becomes a Frankenstein. We're trying hard to be up here, aligned autonomy, and we keep experimenting with different ways of doing that. So alignment enables autonomy. The stronger alignment we have, the more autonomy we can afford to grant. That means the leader's job is to communicate what problem needs to be solved and why, and the squads collaborate with each other to find the best solution.
So thank you, Aparna. Okay, we will go ahead and take some time for questions now.
Sure, sir.
It looks like we have a few questions.
Sure.
The first question would be how to build a product-driven company. It's a similar kind of question. I am not a technical expertise, but I want to build a product-driven company. Is it possible to run a company successfully? What's your advice?
So yes, you don't have to be an IT company alone to adapt to this changing trend. So if you are a non-IT company, yet you want to have a product-driven approach, you can definitely adopt. So it depends on what you are trying to do. So if you are selling something or you are from a different industry, at some point you will be using IT for your work enablement. You can deploy, like we saw in the example now, right? You can give autonomy to your teams and decide. And if you are not doing anything in IT at all, if you are a complete non-IT company and you want to adopt to this product driven approach, I think the first thing you should do is identify what is your end goal, and backward you can start working on it. So if you are into sales and marketing and you want to sell something, then you need to see who's your audience, how do I make an effective campaign. And if you are in a retail industry or a service industry, like you're running a shop or a restaurant, you need to again identify your business vision of what you want to do, and to enable it you can absolutely adopt to the product driven approaches of smaller teams, cohesion, all of it.
Okay. So this next question, is there any difference in software development approach followed for product development and business-based development?
So the approach is that from a very technical angle, when you do product driven development, you need to align with multiple teams. So you plan your deployments, your code merges and fixes. So on a very technical front, we have something called as a dev and ops, and there are tools which will help you create a pipeline of this integration. So each person will do their development and merge with the code, and then the final code is taken and deployed. This is from a very technical perspective. And in a non-business world, the way you can do is simply have smaller teams. But if you are not even as big as you have a team, you are just a handful of people, I think you can use an agile approach where you define some stories of what are the things you want to do and what are your steps in order to do it. That kind of granularity will help you achieve the best of both worlds.
So that's another question. When we have to think of enterprise transformation?
So this is a very good question. So if you are already in an IT company that has applications up and running and you want to really transform how you're doing it, the first step would be to analyze how much of time are each one of your resources spending in their respective activities. So if you have a very special skilled testing person, but your application is already up and running, then do you really need such a high skill tester, because you're not going to have that person test 8 or 10 hours a day. So you should begin with identifying what kind of technical or IT support you need, and depending on that, you have to have people on your team who can be cross functional. So if, for example, if you have a Java developer who's very highly skilled, either you need to see if that person can do a little more on other areas in the development, like can enhance some microservices or can work towards building infrastructure related solutions as well. or if that person is into a box and says that he can only work on a certain area, then you probably need to drop that person in terms of reducing their skills and focus in one area and diversify that person to work on multiple areas. That's how you will get the best out of that resource.
Okay, it's a question. Compare proportional quantity between risk and safety.
So the risk you have here in this approach, the biggest risk would be a team that is struggling to adapt to these changes. So when I say a team, it could even be one individual member, but if they lack the skills to be versatile and work in multiple areas, that is the risk you have. And to mitigate that risk, when you are adopting into agile practices, you have things like a sprint review and a retro where you can very early on. So you fail fast, you fail cheap. That's the whole ideology of agile, right? So you can identify very early on if a certain person is not contributing. That is your risk. And from a safety perspective, I think there's nothing special that one does here, but you can do one thing of making every individual accountable for their stories or features. So that way, they don't get pressurized into something else which is not working. You can narrow down the focus.
So, what are the potential benefits of transformation?
The potential benefits, I would say, is you can take on lot more work. So if you're having, for example, you're using a software that is doing one particular workflow or process, and then you have another software for another, which is typically what most IT companies today are struggling with. The business process is not streamlined, so a lot of specific tasks, they begin with one email from somebody, then there is an Excel sheet you have to fill up, then you create a request in one system, and then once it is done, you come back to your Excel sheet. So um, whenever you don't have a uniform workflow, or you are not 100% digital, that is your first area of improvement. So if you see that today you are doing too many manual intervention tasks, your approach should be to see how can I reduce all this redundancy and go with a product or solution which will do all this at the click of a button. So that is the investment of identifying all opportunities which are not automated, which are not scaling up, and which don't have a way to innovate. These three factors means you have to transform that existing operation, whatever you have, and use it online, go online, make it application based or app based or web based, however that works.
Okay. So another question: what are the barriers that usually block the path to transformation?
So change, if you see the resistance to change. So many big companies took years together of R&D and POC and research to analyze and understand that you are not delivering as much as you want. So a simple example is most of us here understand this level 1, level 2 support. And today, if your internet connection is down, you call somebody and you tell them, you have a slow internet connection. So earlier, it wasn't as automated. So somebody was sitting with you and asking you to, go open this screen, press this button. Today, if you see, before you connect to a human intervention, every one of these support services have a bot. They talk to you for some time. They understand your questions, they read patterns, and there is an engine behind which gives you automatic responses. But the challenge is for companies to accept the need for this kind of a transformation. If you are very small in nature, going for these kind of things will be expensive as well. So what the biggest challenge I see, and from my experience, is for large enterprises, there is a heavy cost in terms of licensing, buying this commercial software which will do all this manual work, etc. For a mid-level company, it is finding the skill set and being able to afford people and salaries who can do this kind of quality work. And for a very small company, I would say the biggest challenge is understanding that there is a need to do all this. That is the biggest challenge in the smallest of firms.
So it's another last question. When the organization looking for a change, also look for a new employee according to the need, or train the existing employee.
So this it depends on how soon the change has to be effected. Most companies plan for change. So there are no overnight changes in the IT industry at all. Every change is 2 to 3 revenue cycles ahead of time. So you have the time to train your people, and as part of training and assessment, you will come to know that there may be a 10% or 15% people who will not make it. So that still gives you a window of opportunity to go and recruit a specific skill if it's needed.
Okay. Okay. I think looks like we have covered all of our questions. Aparna, is there anything else you want to cover before the wrap up?
I just have 1, 2 things which I would like to share. So whoever is already working in the IT industry and who wants to be a product manager, I would say that get very familiar with the agile practices. And if you are in a company that's already agile, try to bring those practices to your team. Or if you can maybe change and take a change and go to a team that's agile, that is very good, because there's no better experience than learning on the job. And focus on the COVID has really changed lives for everybody. We are all at home, and I definitely did not think that I will be doing a webinar like this here. So I would say that for all students who are on this webinar, kindly make use of this time to get a few certifications done. Doesn't mean you have to spend 25-30,000 and get a certification. There are courses on Udemy and Coursera which are probably only a few hundred rupees, and they are by very trained instructors. So try to enhance your knowledge and make yourself more employable. So for people who are looking for a job as well, don't panic that will I find a job in COVID or not. There are still people who are interviewing every day and finding job every day. It's about having the right set of skills. So just focus on that. And if anyone has a particular question related to product management or IT industry, I will leave my LinkedIn profile link here at the chat box. So anybody who would like to connect with me and have a discussion, please feel free to do that.
Thank you very much, Aparna, for spending your valuable time with us. I
My
hope
pleasure.
everyone enjoyed the session. Thank you very much, Aparna, for the highly knowledgeable session, given clear insight on what the enterprise transformation is. On behalf of Jaya Group of Institutions and all participants, thank you once again, Aparna.
Thank
Uh,
you very much, sir, for this
uh,
opportunity.
at this moment, I place my sincere thanks for college management. My thanks for Chairman Professor A. Kanagaraj, our Secretary Ma'am, Mrs. K. Vijay Kumari, our Vice Chairman Engineer K. Navaraj, our Joint Secretary Ma'am, Dr. K. Deena, our Principal Dr. K. Samidurai, and all my colleagues who rendered their support for conducting this webinar series. Great thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. The next schedule is on tomorrow at 5 p.m. The topic is Ulluvadellam Uyarvul. This is a Tamil event. The speaker is very popular and well-known Tamil orator, Dr. Parveen Sultana, professor in Tamil Department, Justice Bashir Ahmed Women's College, Chennai. And Monday we have a session at 6 p.m. Quite interesting topic and interesting speaker. The topic is Living Life the Zen Base by Mr. Harish, one of our alumni. Is president of Alumni Association of our college. Is currently with Global Product Owner, Software One India Private Limited. I request everyone to join for the webinar. Thank you all for your active participation. And thanks again for joining us today. And we will see you next on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Aman.
Thank you very much, sir, and everyone. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.